Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is breaking Manchester United news, although we've got conflicting reports here that Ruben Amorim is getting very close to being the next Manchester United manager. This is breaking from David Ornstein in The Athletic. We'll give you the full detail on that. However, in the last few minutes, Fabrizio Romano has hinted that whilst there is interest, it wouldn't happen this season. But David Ornstein's article says something completely different. Very exciting. Is this the guy you want? What would he do? He's a guy who plays a 3-4-3 with wing backs. He plays with a striker that scores goals. I think fundamentally this is the guy that they want at Man City to replace Pep. So how aggressive can Manchester United be? Look, we've mentioned Emery so many times. Emery joined Aston Villa at roughly the same time. He was at Villarreal. Villa got him out of Villarreal, they played a buyout clause and they got the man they wanted. So this is something Manchester United need to do. The talk is it's about £10 million to get him out of Sporting. If that's what it takes and this is the guy you want, then you go and do it. Now, there is a question about Nagelsmann. Look, all I know is what I tweeted this afternoon and I said to you this afternoon. There has been strong rumours since lunchtime that Manchester United have already got their next manager lined up. Out of respect, I don't think they'll announce them today, maybe tomorrow, maybe this week. But if they have, then I would expect things to move very quickly around who it's going to be. And to be honest with you, if the Amorim story is true from David Ornstein, then that would fit in with the big rumour that was out there at lunchtime that Man United already had a new manager lined up before they sacked Ten Hag, which to me would show progression, professionalism beyond what we've seen with the Glazers. To sack Ten Hag knowing you've got a guy lined up would be a big step forward for Manchester United. And is Amorim that guy? It's going to be very interesting. Of course, the exciting aspect with Amorim is that Ugarte played for him before he went to PSG. PSG, obviously Bruno Fernandes and Amorim are, apparently they've got a good relationship as well. So straight away, you've got Ugarte, Bruno that would fit in, you would imagine, with Amorim's thoughts also. But on the other hand, you look at Nagelsmann, he bought Mazraoui, he bought De Ligt, and Fivel loves him. So, there are two people there with very good connections. Delo is another one, BVHV. So yeah, look, it's very interesting. But let me read you out the story because obviously there is speculation. This is coming in from David Ornstein and Adam Crafton, read The Athletic. Manchester United are working on a deal to appoint Sporting Lisbon's Ruben Amorim as their new head coach. Sources in Portugal, speaking anonymously as they're not authorised to discuss this, have told The Athletic the 39-year-old is open to taking up the opportunity after Erik ten Hag was sacked earlier on Monday. United are ready to pay the €10 million, £8.3 million release clause in his contract, with the two clubs in talks to finalise a deal that could see Ruud van Nistelrooy take interim charge before Amorim's arrival. Amorim has emerged as one of Europe's most sought-after young managers after a run of success with Portugal. I suppose, actually, when you read that back, United are ready to pay the release clause in his contract with the two clubs in talks to finalise a deal that could see Ruud van Nistelrooy take interim charge before his arrival. Somebody said to me, well, maybe Romano is correct then. Maybe Ruud van Nistelrooy would be in charge until the summer when Amorim comes in. I would say no. There is no release clause in the summer. If the Athletic are talking about a release clause, he's coming in soon. There is no release clause in the summer. Amorim's release clause is up in the summer. So that's the interesting thing. The Athletic are painting it from their sources that this could happen very, very quickly, whereas Fabrizio Romano has come out in the last few minutes, I believe, and has said that Manchester United, let me just get this for you. Manchester United, here it is, bear with me. Get your thoughts in anyway while I find you this. Okay, where was it? I read it, I literally just read it a moment ago. Okay, here it is. Fabrizio Romano saying Ruben Amorim is among the candidates to be the next Man United manager. At the moment, he's not opening the door to sign this season. United appreciate his leading skills. That's from Fabrizio. So who do you believe? Who do you believe? I personally go with Athletic on this. I personally go with David Ornstein on this because, as I said, what I was told at lunchtime, and you can see my tweet from this afternoon, was that, and I had so many people messaging me saying, who is it? I don't know who it is. That's not how Ineos work. All it was this rumour going round that Man United already had the manager lined up. So I would suspect that whoever this next manager is going to be, Man United have been talking to him for a while. Days, weeks, I don't know. But the indication was from lunchtime that they've sacked Ten Hag because they know who they're going to get. They haven't sacked Ten Hag and then gone, let's go and take a look. Which to me is a massive step forward, as I said. Drop project, want results now. Ancelotti, says Oscar. You're not going to get Ancelotti out of Real Madrid. Thank you, Ten Hag, for your time. I understand this time was up. Mark, what do you think is the expected lineups, possible transfers to come from Amorim? We'll talk about that. Damon Targaryen. Amorim was my first choice since Nagelsmann is unrealistic. Touted as Pep and Klopp replacement. Surely the best replacement at the moment, says Sakin. Is this the best option, is the question, says Robbie G. Great question. Does Portuguese Graham Potter speak English, says Andy. You've got to respect how fast they're being with this appointment. Sacked and hired a new coach in the same day. I've never seen United do this, to be fair, says Bob. There's a couple of good points in there. The first point is it disrespectful to move this quick after Ten Hag? Of course it is. But that's football. Managers get sacked. Man United can't go into a period of mourning and sit on their arse. We're just not used to this. We're not used to sacking a manager with the next one lined up. That's what a football club should do. I feel bad for Ten Hag. I think the players have let him down. I think he's contributed to his own sacking. I think he won 2 back-to-back trophies. I think he walks away with 15 million quid. There's pros and cons, but ultimately the story is over. The era is over. You cannot just sit there going, what are we going to do next? I think it's absolutely what a top club should do. Brighton do it. Manchester City will do it. When your manager goes, you have somebody lined up, especially if you're going to sack them. So we shouldn't be waiting for a week out of respect for Ten Hag. There is no respect for Ten Hag because he's not a Man United manager anymore. We've sacked him. The club have put a statement out. We'll all have our own opinions, but it's done. Get the new man in. You know, the manager is gone. Long live the new manager. And that is just something we've not behaved like as a football club for a long time. Is he the right man to go for? Categorically, this is where Man City were going to go if Pep goes. That's where they're heading. It still could happen, but that's where Man City are going. Amorim, Pep, straight after that. So we are going for somebody that is high on the list of Manchester City. He was high on the list of Liverpool. But then again, you know, Ten Hag would have been high on the list of other clubs at the time. It doesn't mean he's going to be successful. But I feel that, you know, apparently Romano has changed his mind and that YouTube video was a bit of time ago. Let me just have a quick look then. Not changed his mind. He's probably got more information, hasn't he? Let me have a look what Fabrizio is saying. I want to talk about the style of play of Amorim anyway. Let me have a quick look. Okay, 14 minutes ago from Fabrizio Romano. Man United have approached Sporting for Ruben Amorim as he's the favourite to candidate. Talks are ongoing. Contract terms have also been discussed with Amorim's camp in the recent hours. So, yes, to be fair to Fabrizio, that quote from his YouTube channel was a little bit outdated. He has now admitted... this is getting close then. This is getting very, very close. Amorim looks like he's going to be the guy. I want to run a poll on this because I want to talk about what he is as a manager. I think that's the most important thing. Are you happy? And I don't know the answer with this. I do not know the answer to this. And when you answer this, yes or no, is Amorim the manager you want? Out of all the realistic options, Thomas Frank, Nagelsmann, Xavi, waiting till the summer for somebody else, Amorim, are you happy with Amorim? Because I think that, you know, ultimately, he plays a very different brand of football to what we're used to at Manchester United. He basically plays with wing-backs. He basically plays with 3 centre-backs. It's almost like 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, a pivot, 2 inverted players, and a striker. So it's like a 3-4-3. Where would Bruno fit into that? Where would Rashford, Garnacho fit into that? Would he change his formation at Manchester United? How does he play football, Mark? High intensity, high press, high possession. Doesn't want the opposition to have the ball, wants to win the ball high up the pitch. I like it. I like it. But can we play a 3-4-3 with what we've got? Well, we haven't got a left wing back. We haven't got a left back. We haven't got 6 centre-backs good enough to play with a back 3. But if you're going to build a vision for the future, we're not ready. So I don't think there's a manager that's going to come in and fit us perfectly because I don't think we've got the players anyway. I don't think we had the players for Ten Hag. So I think if you bring this manager in, you've got to provide him with the players. What I like about Amorim is I think he's another manager in his 30s. He's done a fantastic job in a short period of time. He would be somebody that would have to be given time and patience. He would be Ineos's guy. Obviously, we've spent £60 million on Ugarte. Ten Hag refused to use him. Amorim knows everything about him. And he is also, there are two things that I think are really, really important. We need a manager that focuses on providing chances for a striker, which we haven't done. And we need a manager that is tough on wasters. Now, wasters can mean lazy. Wasters can mean missed chances. Wasters can mean people who can't keep possession. But as a statement, we need a manager that is tough on wasters. People who waste possession, people who waste opportunities, people who waste their time and that of the manager. We need a manager who's tough on wasters. We need a manager with a defined system. And we need a defined system that creates chances for the striker. Because Rasmus is still here. Xerxes is still here. People talking about Gio Queiroz, who plays for Sporting, formerly of Coventry, scores a lot of goals. I like the idea of a manager that has a striker that scores goals. And for some reason, Man United have failed this. I like the idea of a manager that has a very defined style of play that is focused on hard work and possession. Now, the hypocrisy of that is that Erik ten Hag at Ajax was focused on possession and was focused on hard work. But he didn't do that for 2 years under Ineos. He didn't do that for 2 years under a strategic board with football knowledge. Ten Hag was probably spent from the day he came in because he was damaged goods from the Glazer era. If you bring a new manager in like Amorim with an Ineos appointment that they want him, then surely they will back him to the hilt and give him what he wants. This team is not able to play like Sporting Lisbon. We haven't got players that can do it. We've got a few that can do it. We've got a few that might be able to do it. And we've got a lot that can't do it. There are certain players such as Johnny Evans, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Casemiro, Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, Anthony. The list goes on of a lot of players that you would say, because of age, injury, or style of play, are going to struggle to play the way Sporting Lisbon play. Maybe even Bruno, who knows? As long as we bring a manager in with a vision who is allowed to clear out, I think this had to happen. I think it had to happen because there are people in the media, there are people in the fan base that just wanted to blame Ten Hag for everything because he'd been here so long. If you bring a new manager in and you accept that this club is broken and that this playing squad is vulnerable and, you know, potentially not good enough, you bring a new manager in, he's got the clean slate. The players have had their cards marked. I think this is probably the right thing to do, is to bring a manager in who has got no history attached to the fucking mess that's been at this football club for years, and he is given the clean slate. And the blame sits with the players, and they have to prove that they're good enough for his system. We didn't really grab that with Ten Hag. We didn't really grab that with Mourinho. And I think if that is what Ineos are going to do, appoint their own guy with their own principles and say, we will back you to the hilt on incomings and outgoings, then it could be very interesting. If you're tuning in at the moment, make sure you smash a like on the video. We've got nearly 22,000 watching. Please do subscribe to the channel, by the way. Massive day today. We're on the road to 2 million. So please do subscribe if you're new and get involved with this new era for Manchester United. Whether we wanted it or not, the new era starts here. And Manchester United are making big moves. Now, give me your honest thoughts on Amorim. 78% of you are saying you are happy with it. Look, I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I hope most of you are happy. Then Ineos must appoint the manager they want. I agreed with them giving Ten Hag time. I don't agree with them after the FA Cup final making it public that they were looking for another manager. I think ultimately that was a mistake they would acknowledge. I agree with how quickly they've acted on Ten Hag today. And I agree, if it's true, that they had somebody lined up as well. If their man is Amorim, then Amorim is the guy I'm going to back. I would have liked Nagelsmann, but to be honest with you, I don't know that it was even possible, and I don't know whether it's the right guy. What I do like about Nagelsmann and what I do like about Amorim is that there are connections. Amorim has worked with Faval, who works for Man United on the recruitment. And obviously Mazraoui and De Ligt were bought by Nagelsmann at Bayern Munich. When it comes to Amorim, he obviously knows Agate very well. He's got a good relationship with Bruno, although I don't really know if they've ever crossed over, but Bruno has always spoken very glowingly about him. So look, those connections can help straight away. I think that if Amorim is the guy that Manchester United want, then that is the guy we should go for. If you're asking me whether I think we're going to get him, I think that we will. I think he will be a Man United manager very, very soon. To me, when certain journalists talk about transfers, as we saw in the summer, it's so hard to get information out of Manchester United. And the only two people that really sort of exchanged the exclusives in the summer were David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano. Well, this morning, I think it was David Ornstein who broke the sacking first. I didn't really catch who did it. But this evening, it's Ornstein talking about Amorim, and now it's Romano confirming that contract talks are taking place. You know, I don't need a weatherman to tell me it's raining, and I don't need someone to tell me that Amorim is going to be our next manager, because it's pretty much nailed on. So, yeah, that report that's come out in the last half an hour about talks with Amorim, I think the biggest takeaway is that Man United are negotiating a contract and a release clause of £8.6 million. He hasn't got a release clause in the summer. So this is happening now, and it's happening fast. So whether you're thinking about Xavi, and to be fair, Rob Dawson did say about an hour and a half ago that both sides, Manchester United and Xavi, have distanced themselves from Manchester United. So Xavi's off the table. Nagelsmann looked difficult. Thomas Frank was maybe just speculative. It looks like it's going to be Amorim. And it's a gamble, says Ewan Gillespie. Welcome to the Members Club, Mustafa. If you want to get your badge in, you can do that through the Members Club. It's a gamble. Of course it's a gamble. I mean, there's a lot of positive stuff there to talk about. I like the style of play. I like the fact that he plays with a striker that scores goals, because United just have been shit at that for years. I like the fact that it's high energy, it's high possession, it's modern, but we haven't really got a squad to do that. The pitfalls are obvious. In some ways, because Ten Hag is damaged goods, what I'm about to say won't be acknowledged. But if you think about the Ten Hag we wanted, and we all wanted, there is not a lot of difference between him and Amorim. Ten Hag had a very big reputation in Europe with Ajax. He'd been very successful with Ajax. He had a high intensity, high possession, exciting style of play with development of youth. Amorim at Sporting Lisbon has been very, very successful. He has a high intensity, high possession style of football with a focus on developing youth. The similarities are very, very similar, but they're not the same people. For all Ten Hag had, he was ridiculously stubborn, and he did have his favourites. Now, if Amorim comes in and abandons his principles for favouritism and stubbornness, then you've got a very similar problem. If Amorim comes in and the players don't buy into it, then you've got a similar problem. If Amorim comes in and the club don't sell the shit and don't give him what is needed, then you've got a very similar problem. But if Amorim comes in and doesn't have favourites and works with the board to clear the shit and bring better players in, then I think we'll have a very different story. This is the clean slate. This is the potential reset. And in some ways, I see it as a massive positive that there are similarities with Ten Hag, because that is what I wanted. I want a modern style of football at Old Trafford. I want high intensity. I want hard work. I want high possession. And just because it didn't work with Ten Hag doesn't mean we should abandon it and go back to Ollie ball. I think we have a principle of how we want to play. It's very clear that the fan principle about how we want to play and the Ineos principle on how upon they want to play is modern. Just because we failed under Ten Hag doesn't mean we should abandon it. We should double down on it. They can't stick with Ten Hag. Everybody knows that. It's over. It had to be done. But in one way, it's actually quite clever to go, yeah, Ten Hag's gone, but guess what, you fuckers? We're not stopping the way we want to play. You haven't won. You're still fucking running, and you're still learning to pass. And if not, get fucked. So I quite like that. Because if we abandon it and go back to what the players seem to like, then we go back to where we were 3 years ago, counter-attacking and playing shit. I think this is good. Mike says, I think it's a mistake. He's an inexperienced manager. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Architect says, Mark is so desperate for any positive, he'll make a story out of it. Mate, I didn't want Ten Hag to get sacked. I'm just moving on because life is too short. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go, I don't want Amorim out, Ineos are shit, everything's finished. I support the football club, mate, and I always try to support the football club. And, you know, I didn't really want this to happen. I've accepted it, and you move on. I didn't want Ineos. I wanted Qatar, but I moved on very quickly because you move on with the reality that you can't control. I can't control things that are happening at Man United, but I can control how I react to them. Ten Hag is gone. Amorim is on his way. I like the way he plays football. I'm not against the appointment in the situation that we're in. It could be worse. It could be Potter. It could be Southgate. It could be Xabi. It could be Frank. I've got nothing against Frank and Xavi, but I'd rather go for Amorim because this is a guy that Man City were looking at. This is a guy that Liverpool were looking at. Is it my number one choice? No, it's not. Is it a choice that I'm going to be against from the start? No, it's not. And I hope that Man United fans, if this goes through, get behind him because I'm pretty confident that Man United appointing a manager from the Portuguese league is not going to go down well with certain knobheads who attend press conferences at Manchester United. This is not going to be the guy they want, and it's not going to be the guy that they get excited about. So I hope fans get behind him because there is absolutely no way this is going to be what they want. Anyway, let me go through some of your comments. Excited, but does Amorim have the personality for it? I mean, Paul, I am not the definitive oracle on Amorim, and if we appoint him, we're never going to get to do the videos about all the other options. It's quick, right? And I'll have to do some research on it myself. I don't know anything about Amorim personality-wise. I don't know whether he speaks English. I don't know what he's like in interviews. I don't know about the personality. Reezy says he's got a huge personality. Great. I think it would be nice to see a personality on the bench. From what I've seen of Sporting, you know, he's not somebody who just sits down and does nothing. And I think that would be well received at Manchester United. It's not the be-all and end-all, but I think the personality we need is the one that comes across in the press conferences. I think the personality that we need is someone who doesn't take any shit. Are the players going to adapt to him? Is he going to be allowed to bring his own coaches in, or has he got to work with Ruud van Nistelrooy and Rennie Heck? They're big questions as well. No point in bringing Amorim in if you don't bring in his coaching staff. So lots of questions, but we're reacting to what looks like it's going to be the next Manchester United manager. Keep your comments coming on. Smash a like. Patrick Lynch, legend of the chat, says, my biggest worry is that Amorim is very similar in profile to Ten Hag. I hope it's successful, but all it is hope right now. And as I say, Patrick, I agree. But in many ways, I would flip that as a positive and say, is that not Ineos saying, yes, Ten Hag is gone. He couldn't get you to play the way we want, so we'll try someone else with a similar style to do it. I quite like the idea that we're sticking with a similar style of play. John says, I'm waking up from Australia, catching up on all the news. All I say is this can't be a fresh start for the underperforming players. The next manager needs to have a huge aura, in my opinions, and strong leaders. Thank you very much. And good morning to you, John. Ruud is 48 and Amorim is 39. Is that something we need to consider, says Francesca? I mean, 48 is still young for a manager. I mean, Jose Mourinho is 61. Andre says, I prefer Nagelsmann, but most of our players will suit Amorim's system. I know you don't think like me, but a back three of De Ligt, Yoro and Martinez with Ugarte, Amorim made him, is pure class. The trouble with it, Andre, is, I agree, a back three with De Ligt, Martinez and Yoro works. But if one or two get injured or need subbing off, we don't have enough centre-backs for it. I don't think a back three with Victor Lindelof or Harry Maguire or Johnny Evans in it is actually how the Amorim back three is meant to work. So have we got good enough centre-backs for a three centre-back system? If they're all fit, yeah, but you know. Ahmed says, I'm not happy. He will be the next Ten Hag, just another hipster. Before coming to United, Ten Hag had a style of play. If we don't give the new boss the tools to succeed, including removals, no point in my opinion, says Swami. Can you see Simon Jordan saying we appointed Bruno's cousin, says Mario Franco. Look, if we appoint Amorim, a lot of the British press, TV personalities, radio personalities, journalists and ex-players won't have a fucking clue who Amorim is and will just basically come up with stupid stuff, really. Problem with project, it sets a low standard, says Oscar. Do you think Amorim brings his own backroom staff? This is a great question, Ali Khan, and what do you think that means for Ruud? I think Ruud and Heck have to go. I know they've only just come in, but I think they've got to go. I don't see how, if you appoint me to rewire your house, and when I turn up, you say, I've got 2 electricians from round the corner to work with you, you can't use your own team, I'm not going to rewire the house as well. Like, you've got to bring your own people in. And it will cost money, but we've made this mistake before. You can't inflict, we got Ranić in for 6 months and then said work with Ollie's people. You've got to let him bring his own people in, because very rarely is a manager or a coach successful just because of them. They're successful because of the team around them. Pochettino has a team around him. Mourinho had a team around him. Pep has a team around him. Slightly off topic, but what do you think will be the first United player that Ten Hag brings to his next club? Says Pix. I don't know. Glenn C, thank you very much for the update on Romano. He will get us top 4, says Lord Rogers. This might be a January signing should the season continue to slip with the interim. We need to get on with it and don't waste any more time, says Deacon. Drop project, want results now, says Oscar and Olive. Right, okay, we're caught up on all of that. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I haven't checked is, and look, you can learn a lot from this sometimes, the manager odds for Manchester United have changed a lot today. I haven't checked them in the last hour, but he is absolutely nailed on. Amorim is now 1-5 with all bookmakers. The next biggest one is Ruud van Nistelrooy. Nagelsmann has drifted to 16-1. Thomas Frank has drifted to 12-1. Xavi Hernandez has drifted to 14-1. So he is absolutely nailed on next Man United manager. At this moment in time, absolutely nailed on. You've got very good sources like Ornstein and Romano talking about contracts. You've got the bookmakers having him absolutely nailed on with theirs. I think this is your next Manchester United manager. And who would have thought yesterday in the first half, when Deleu's missing an open goal, that in 24 hours, Ten Hag would be gone and Amorim would basically be the next Manchester United manager. That's how quick they've moved on this. But as I say, and as I repeat, I was told at lunchtime that Manchester United already had their next manager lined up. And quite clearly, you can't do what they've done with Amorim that quick. They've clearly been looking at it. And what I find really interesting is that yet again, we should always revisit the past. No journalist had this. None. Nobody had this. We've been in secret talks with Xavi. No, we haven't. We've been in secret talks with Thomas Frank. No, we haven't. Nobody had the Amorim secret talks that we've clearly been having for at least the last few days. So it just shows you again how we get fed so much shit that's not actually true. And it's exactly the same as the summer transfer window. Lots and lots of speculative shit about who we're going to sign. And then right before it gets announced, Ornstein or Romano report it. And very, very quickly afterwards, it comes out. So I would say that it's highly likely how quickly that this is developed that Man United are probably going to announce him as manager tomorrow. I don't know that for sure, but following on how transfers have worked, I think it will be announced very, very quickly. The question then is, and I feel a little bit weird doing this because I'm almost not believing it myself that it will happen, but I think it will. I'm pretty sure it will. How quickly will he be in charge of Manchester United? I mean, look, it's Monday. He's not going to be in charge for Leicester, but would you have him in the stands for Chelsea? Suddenly you start to look at it and you go, if he's in the stands for Chelsea, those players are on trial. You beat Chelsea, he comes in for Paik, you beat Leicester, you beat Ipswich, you beat Everton, and suddenly you've won 4 Premier League games on the bounce. You're 3 or 4 points off top 4. It might be a bit speculative, but we know the clever thing for me is we know we're going to get if I'm Omar Barada and I'm Dan Ashworth and I've done my homework like all of you have, I know there's going to be a new manager bounce. I know it. 100% know there's going to be a new manager bounce. Because we know these players. We've seen the movie. They're going to bounce. They're going to go and suddenly start doing things they haven't been doing. So if I'm Barada and I'm Ashworth, do I want that new manager bounce to be with an interim? Or do I want it to be with the next guy? I want it to be with the next guy. Because when that new manager bounce stops, you've got the proper manager to go, who the fuck are you? And why are you not doing what you were doing a couple of weeks ago? So I think the quicker they make this happen, the quicker it works. Geisha says, Amorim plays with wingers. I mean, does he? Does he though? I mean, I'm just looking. I must admit, I haven't seen much of Sporting for quite a while, so I'm not going to sort of pretend on this one. I know that when looking at them in the past, it's predominantly been a sort of 3-4-3. I'm just looking at their game against Sturm Graz, and you've got Anacho, De Bast, and Estio as their three. And then you've got Homeland. I mean, I like Homeland. Trincao and Araujo behind Gio Queiroz. So let me just get this. I think it's intriguing. I mean, a 3-4-3, you could see. It's interesting because I'm just riffing with you here. But if we play a 3-4-3 and the three at the back are centre backs, and then you've got Delo and the left back, Agate and I don't know, Mainu, and then your front three. Where does Bruno fit in that system? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where would Bruno fit in if you've got three centre-backs, two wing-backs, a midfield pivot, two wingers and a striker? Where would Bruno go? I suspect Bruno would play in the front three to the right, in which case, where does Bruno fit into that team? He might not play the same. Thomas Tuchel doesn't play the same formation all the time. So where would Bruno fit into that 3-4-3? Could play in the pivot. I mean, to be fair, if you're playing a 3-4-3, you are absolutely swamping the midfield. Like, your wing-backs are basically in the midfield. Your three centre-backs, one of them's going to be a centre-back and the other two are sort of going to be wide centre-backs, which means your wing-backs are going to be basically in the midfield and providing width as well. You're going to have a double pivot, which could be Bruno and one other. But it's interesting. But look, what we cannot do is assess this team that has failed against whether it will fit in with a manager. They've got to fit in with the manager, not the other way around. I look at it and I go, where's everyone going to fit in a 3-4-3? But then I think, well, where are they going to fit in with a 3-4-3? That's the thing. So, maybe we need to buy more fullbacks. Maybe we bring Alvaro Fernandez back, who is at Benfica, and Amorim will know all about him. We will need to probably buy more centre-backs. Maybe Mazraoui will move into a back three. Maybe we'll use Delo on the right. Maybe we'll use Garnacho as a left wing back. You just don't know. But the most important thing is that players need to adapt to him. We need to change our mentality of how the manager adapts to the players. The players need to adapt to him. And it's looking like Yoro's going to be the manager. Michael says, I've ordered the Christmas jumper. Great show as always. I like Ten Hag, but it was time. Yeah, if you want to get your Christmas jumpers, by the way, they're going fast. They're limited edition and they're knitted. I think it's pinned in the chat. Hi, Mark. Do we know anything about Ruben's personality? Well, I don't. I've still got a lot of research to do on Amorim, but Nathan Carr, I think a lot of people in the chat have said that he is really personable. Maybe we can play Yoro, Dillit, Martinez. Yoro will be confused coming back. Hope you're well, Mark. Says, The amazing thing about Yoro is he is a player that never played a minute of professional football for Erik ten Hag, but these things happen. Maybe he said yes to almost all Ineos requests, says Abdi. Will this make any difference while we have the setup we do, though? I hope so, says Simon. How the club will be able to pay for all this big change, says Xander. Let them deal with that. I personally really don't like the back three formation. Plus, we need to buy and sell a lot of players again to suit that formation, says George. It's if Man United go to a back three, it's a break away from tradition. Man United have never really been a team that plays with a back three, but evolution is reality. Like, we don't always have to play with the back four. One of Manchester United's biggest problems in the last couple of years is that we lost the midfield battle. We need to win the midfield battle. I don't disagree with what I'm about to say here. If Gareth Southgate took over Manchester United, which is never going to happen, then we would be shit, but we probably would be better in the midfield because he would be protecting the midfield and playing more compact. Not sure about this, says Lee. The squad is not built for 3-4-3. It's not. No, it's not. It will need a lot of work, or he will have to adapt, Annabin. Perhaps Alves may get a contact with Amorim, says Mubin. And I think Fellaini would be a great coach for us, says Ben. The funny part is we don't have a left back, so we definitely don't have a left wing back. I really don't mind continuing a project because we can't afford a restart, says John. Mark, please provide the don't know option in your polls if it permits, says Srijit. And how would you compare the style of play between Nagelsmann and Amorim, and what would suit us, says Neymar. I think that obviously there are very big differences between Amorim and Nagelsmann, but fundamentally, when you compare it, I think the more important question is how does it compare to what Ten Hag wanted to do? And the bottom line is all three of those coaches want to play with high possession and high intensity, like a lot of managers do these days. And I think that's the most important thing. There's no guarantee that Nagelsmann would come to Manchester United and stick with the way he played for Germany or Leipzig or Bayern. And there's no guarantee that in only his second job, Amorim is going to stick with a 3-4-3. He might come into Man United and go, I don't need to play a 3-4-3. We can play a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3. I mean, we've been playing with inverted fullbacks for a while, with Delo doing that job, of course. So it doesn't. I wouldn't get too hot on formations. Maybe he will play a 3-4-3. Maybe he won't. But the core principles of how he wants to play is the most important thing. VJ, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Southgate to City in the summer, please, says Angel Bob. And Bob says, to me, what Ruben done is what Alonso done back. Took a team that never won the league to win a league, and Sporting haven't won a league in ages, and the style is similar. Both have wing-backs high. Very, very good point about Amorim at Sporting. When he came in, expectation was ridiculously low. And in a very, very short period of time, much the same as Hansi Flick at Barcelona, he flipped things around very, very quickly. I wonder if that is something that appeals to Ineos as well. Obviously, doing it for Sporting is not the same as doing it for Barcelona, but Hansi Flick hasn't actually done it for Barcelona yet. It's only October, but you know my point, that the expectation when he came in at Sporting wasn't particularly high. I personally really don't like the back three formation, says George. Plus, we need to buy and sell a lot of players to suit that formation. The Ten Hag book is gone already, says Young. It's not. I'll stand up in a minute. Shab says, I hate being back at square one. I agree. And Mark, we don't need to buy and recruit players to a special style of play, not a special manager. That's why one veto of a signing for a manager is important, says Ultimate TNT Gamer. And United AV says, I'm cautiously optimistic given the decade of instability. We all need to hold the players' feet to the fire and drop players who don't perform. And Dennis says, mate, it could be Barat or Pep. It doesn't matter. The only consistent thing with every shite season is the players. It's like trying to race in F1 with a car powered by hamsters on wheels. And it's not the question, is he the best or not, says Sapatashi. Is these players willing to listen? He will not concede with these type of players. And the detail guru says, I like the idea and Ineos have done it well. Sacked him and moving on. Glazers would have taken weeks or done the Southgate route. And ask Ronaldo who should be the next manager because he knows it all, says 9met2. Detail Guru, thank you very much for your super chat. Architect Cinema says, I apologise for earlier. You could say that was my frustration, and I'm one of those who need the positives. Kudos to you for always trying to stay positive. It's not easy, Architect Cinema, but thank you very much for getting involved, and I appreciate that. And Glenn C says, was funny as just before the story came out about these talks, there was leaks that a couple of players expected Ruud to be permanent manager, says Glenn C. I think this is something from Glenn as well. I don't know whether this is by design, but this would be something that would be very, very, very important to me. I know what's going to happen under Ruud van Nistelrooy. And I think some of you do as well. You sack Ten Hag, they're used to sacking managers, and the players get together and go, let's show everybody that the manager was the problem. And then Ruud van Nistelrooy, as an interim that's got no future, is suddenly presiding over a team that's playing well and winning games. And Ineos are left with a problem where the media and some fans are going, give Ruud the job, just like Ollie. And then Ineos get trapped into, should we give Ruud the job or not? And then suddenly you're in trouble. And I think what's happening now is you're cutting off the players' ability to respond and go, it was Ten Hag's fault, we were never the problem. Because Ineos know they're the problem as well, and we know they're the problem as well. So if you get a manager in really quickly after Ten Hag and the players decide to up their game, great, because Amorim's the guy, not you. And I think that's where the Glazers always went wrong. They sack a manager and then they bring an interim for a long time, and it allows the players to sort of take control and go, well, he's only an interim, we're running things here. And that bounce is going to happen. But if that bounce can happen with Amorim, woe betide the player that decides to drop the ball, because he will want it to continue and he will have had experience of it bouncing. So I think this is a great idea to get a manager in quickly after removing the other one, because that new manager can then absorb the manager bounce and hopefully maintain it. Because if they drop the ball quickly for a new manager, then they will be got rid of. So I think it's very, very clever. Pletty Goal is saying the first talks with Man United and Amorim took place a few weeks ago. Well, I mean, that doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter whether it's true it doesn't matter if it's true or not, does it? It shows continuity. I said this on Friday when I had no inclination that Ten Hag would get sacked. And you know what? Let's be mature about this. Some people will be going, oh, good old Ineos. Rah, rah, rah. They were talking to Amorim weeks ago. But I would say if Delot scores yesterday at that open goal, we probably win the game. And if we win the game, Ten Hag's not sacked today. If you lose to Chelsea, maybe he gets sacked. But Ten Hag hasn't been sacked because Man United have been talking to Amorim for weeks. Ten Hag has been sacked because he fell through the thin ice and Man United are now moving with their continuity plan. So whether we've been talking to him for a few days or a few weeks, this has only happened because we lost to West Ham and Ten Hag loosed up his last chance. So you can't feel guilty about the fact that Man United have been talking to him for a few weeks or a few days. It's called having a contingency plan. And maybe Ten Hag wins yesterday, wins against Chelsea, wins against Leicester, and he's safe and everything goes well. But he didn't. So I'm not going to moan or lose any sleep about the fact that Man United may have been talking to Amorim for weeks, because having continuity is what good business is all about. And Amorim's in a job. So if Man United talk to Amorim and say, would you be interested in taking the Man United job if we sack Ten Hag? And Amorim says yes, but I'm happy at Sporting because I'll probably get the Man City job in the summer anyway. So what? If Ten Hag had done really well, Amorim would have stayed at Sporting and probably took the Man City job. If Ten Hag does really bad, gets the sack, and we bring Amorim in, that's what continuity is all about. And that's what I was saying this morning. Why were some of our fans locked in on managers that are available? All I've heard for the last few days is Xavi or Potter or, you know, somebody who's available at the moment. We should be doing what Aston Villa did. Emery was at Villarreal. People forget that Emery was at Villarreal. And they took him out of Villarreal. They paid £6 million and they took him out of Villarreal and they took him to Villa Park. We are Manchester United. If Aston Villa can do it, so can we. You go and get the guy that you think can do the job. And if you think Amorim can do the job and he says, I don't want to leave Sporting, then you go and try someone else. But I think this is great. I think this is exactly what you should do. And I don't know why we got locked in the summer with what was available. I mean, I would question why Ineos didn't go for Amorim in the summer. We seem to be interviewing a lot of managers that were available, Tuchel, etc. Why did we not just go for the best that we wanted? As far as I remember, I don't think we spoke to him in the summer. I don't think he was one of the names that we spoke to in the summer. They've gone for a guy working, so clearly their man, says Robert McCormack. And I think that's good, Robert. I think that there can't be any excuses, because if you go, let's say they sacked Ten Hag and gone for Tuchel, my thing would have been, well, he's a good manager, but he's also available. In this case, there are no excuses for Ineos. They've sacked Ten Hag, they've given him every chance, and now they're going for a manager in a job. If it fails, well, that's on them, isn't it? Will Shaw play before Amorim is sacked, says Kia. Harvey Spectre says, Agate deal makes sense now. This is not out of the blue. Look, one of my biggest frustrations with Ten Hag yesterday was the misuse of Agate, or not using Agate. That signing was an Ineos signing. Like, that was literally what I would do and what you would do. We need a midfielder who wins the ball back. Agate is one of the best in Europe. We want Agate. Ten Hag signed it off. I don't know why he didn't use him. Maybe it wasn't maybe it was still, I don't know. But you've got a manager now that knows how to use him. Shaq says, I give him 2.5 years. Can I just say, like, I'm not sitting here saying we're back. I'm not sitting here saying this is going to be great. Honestly, we might not have hit the bottom of the barrel. We could be here in 2.5 years, sacking Amorim, going, didn't win anything. Ten Hag was better than him. Nobody feels like that at the moment because you're living in the reaction. But in 2.5 years' time, you might look at this and go, Ten Hag was better than Amorim. So there are no guarantees, but we just have to move with it. It's very similar to, how quickly, it's very similar to ending up with Ineos instead of Qatar. It's probably not what people wanted, but it doesn't mean it won't work. New manager hype with the same lot that threw many managers under the bus. I ain't buying it. Let the results talk before we go down this road again, says Jayesh. If Amorim can't... Look, I'll tell you this, and you know my conscience is clear. I will back this manager and stubbornly back him as long as it takes. And if they sack him, they sack him. I don't believe in sacking managers. I don't believe the manager is always the problem at Manchester United. I made that mistake with Jose and I've regretted it ever since. I'll stick by this manager. I don't want to see a manager sacked in 2 or 3 years. He may well end up getting sacked, but I'm tired of saying it. If you don't clear the shit, the new manager can't do his job. And yes, Ten Hag needed to go. Ollie needed to go. Mourinho needed to go. But Jose said himself, there's 3 players at that club now that I asked to get rid of that they wouldn't sell. If they don't get rid of players that don't suit the manager, we will never progress. So that's where I'm looking. So if it's Amorim, if it's Frank, if it's Xavi, if it's Nagelsmann, they have my support because I'm past pinning this all on managers. I don't pin it all on Ten Hag. I think it was time to go, but I don't pin it all on him. I think there's a lot wrong at that football club, and I get why Ineos have done it, but I'm not pinning it on another manager, so he has my support. And I hope that the fan base does do that. But as we've seen before, there are certain elements of our fan base that aren't going to do it. And I'll tell you why they're not going to do it. They think they're going to do it. They think they're going to back the manager, but they thought they were going to back Ten Hag. And they thought they were going to back Jose. And they thought they were going to back Ollie. But they still carry a lot of agendas. They like one player and they don't like another player. So if Amorim comes in and he keeps picking a certain player like Bruno or Rashford or Casemiro, they very quickly won't like that. And what if he doesn't pick Ahmad? So like, I'm not naive. We might majority be quite happy at the moment, but it won't take long if he doesn't do the Player FC stuff for certain fans to turn on him. And I certainly don't think the media are going to take to him at all. Some might, but I think a lot of them will just go, well, it's just another Ten Hag, isn't it? You know, he's probably going to start buying Portuguese players now. So this is what I mean. We're not out of the woods. We're still going to have problems. We're not all going to start holding hands and singing John Lennon songs. It's that there will still be toxic elements. But as I said, my conscience is clear. I never did that. So I didn't do that with with the manager that's just gone, and I'm not going to do it with this one. I think it gets to a point where Ineos have to make a decision, and I'm quite relieved by it. but we go again. And I'm quite happy how quick things are moving, because my biggest fear was that we were going to end up in interim period. I don't want to write the fucking season off. I don't want to write the season off. We're only a couple of wins from being in the race for top 4. We're still in the Europa League, where you can get in the Champions League. I'm not writing this season off. So get a new manager in and get going. Simple as that, isn't it? This is exactly what the club needs to be. Ruthless. All respect to Ten Hag, but one out and replacement immediately in. It'd be very interesting to see as well how... The thing that excites me is it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Manchester United are... I'm just reading what Pratthurst has got to say. Man United is trying to convince Ruben Amorim to join them on over Man City. They're trying to convince... Yeah, mate. You were talking about Ollie coming back this morning. What do you do? Just take David Ornstein's tweets and try and twist it to make it sound shit? Nonsense. Yeah, I think should we not be looking for a manager with the best win ratio in Europe? Mate, that's Carl. Come on, you know. That's not the way to look at it. Ten Hag's win ratio at Ajax was absolutely unbelievable. Just because you've got a good win ratio in one European league doesn't mean it's going to work here. Delighted for change, says Bounty Hunter. Ten Hag did his best. Players are a disgrace. I know nothing about this new manager. Is he any good? He has very similar principles to a lot of modern managers and Erik Ten Hag. So let's wait and see how it works out. Z3 Music Official says, this is exactly what the club needs to be. Ruthless. All respect to Ten Hag, but one out and a replacement immediately in, says Z3 Music Official. Cube says, maybe Ineos saw how Tuchel managed Bayern and that's why they didn't go for him. I think, you know what? I'm just going to stand up for a bit and have a leg stretch. I think fundamentally, one of the big reasons that Manchester United didn't go for Thomas Tuchel is because he is not long-term. Now, Amorim may succeed or he may fail, but at 39 years of age, this is a project manager. Like, if he fails, he'll be gone in 2.5 years. But if it works, where's he going to go? Where is Amorim going to go if he's successful at Manchester United? Maybe Real Madrid, maybe Barcelona, but that's the same as Arteta or Arne Slot. Like, this is a manager that you would expect to be here for the long run. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know masses about Sporting yet. I know bits about this intensity, high press, high possession, 3-4-3. I also think he has a good youth development element to him. There are younger players that come through, whether they're signed in or whether they come through the Sporting Lisbon Academy. That's something that has to be mentioned, that maybe hasn't been mentioned enough today. Erik Ten Hag and the youth system at Manchester United has been very good. We have recruited a lot of young players and that is part of our vision. So you have to have a manager that wants to do that. Now, would Tuchel have been long-term and would he have fitted in with all of that? That's the question. I don't think he does. Sulai says, Mark is called standards until he wins. I get it. And Ewan says, including interims, if we were to get Amorim, it would be our 10th manager since Sir Alex Ferguson, says Ewan. Which players would you let go, says Darren. I think it's a good point. I wanted to talk about this and I would love to get some interaction from you. I mean, we've had loads of interaction already. So if you're tuning in a little bit late, can I just say we're only 80 subscribers away from, that needs updating, from 958,000. So please do subscribe. We're on the road to 2 million. Man United on the road to a new era. Erik Ten Hag is gone. That is over. We're heading towards something new and it's looking like it's going to be Ruben Amorim. The Amorim era is about to start at Manchester United. Get involved with the United Stand. We're live every night at 8 o'clock, every morning at 10 o'clock. Watch-alongs, previews, the lot. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and get involved. All your opinions are welcome. I think that this is something I wanted to spend a few minutes on, but I didn't expect to be doing it so soon. We've hinted at it a little bit. What players do you think will have to go? And how much money do you think this manager will be given? Because I said this 2 years ago when Erik ten Hag came in. How much money, first of all, do you think? I can do a poll on this, actually. 76% of you are happy with Amorim, by the way, which is not a bad. I mean, I'd love it to be higher, but it's not bad. We did this a couple of years ago when Erik ten Hag came in. I want to ask you a question. So 2 years ago, we did a poll saying, how much money do you think Manchester United need to spend to challenge Manchester City? And the poll basically said over £500 million, with many people saying probably £1 billion. Now, we've spent about £600 million, which is a lot, but wasn't the billion many people thought. From this point, do you think we need to spend over £500 million or under £500 million to compete with Man City, considering we do and have brought players in over the last couple of years? Can I get that 10 Hag book now? You don't really need it, says Duel. I mean, I could give it away, I suppose. If you are Amorim, why pick United over City, says Carlos. Blair C says, Maguire, Lindelof, Casemiro, Eriksen, Rashford, Shaw, Dalot need to go. I think Dalot will be part of the plan. Portuguese connections, sporting connections. I mean, I know he went a long time before Amorim. I don't think there's any crossover there, but I would have thought he might be part of the plan. Look, I like Dalot. I think he's a good player. I mean, will it be Michael Oliver who sacked Ten Hag or Dalot? The truth is, it's neither of them. They just contributed in the last game. But I didn't favour a sack, but I was tired of not hearing his tactics when asked in interviews. It's just arrogance to not explain your tactics and mention they won 2 trophies, says Faisal. Keel says, no crying over spilt milk, we move onwards. Mate, you know what? I backed the manager. I'm sad in a sense to see him go, but I accepted that it was probably time. And at the end of the day, this is football. This is football. Like, people get sacked. Sometimes they deserve it. Sometimes you're not sure. Sometimes they don't deserve it. But we've got to move on. The one thing we've never really done when we sack a manager is move on quickly. Moyes, we gave it to Giggs for a bit. Van Gaal, yes, that was at the end of the season and Mourinho came in. Mourinho, we gave it to Ollie and then we gave it in full time. After Ollie, we gave it to Rangnick for 5 months. Then he got gone. Ten Hag is gone in October. Move on quickly. Get somebody in quickly and move on. Does not the manager who the manager is, club, okay, says Mario. If Amorim comes in, he needs to bring Morten Humland with him. Yeah, I like, well, we have been linked to him a few times, Gustav. Whether we could get him out of Sporting is one thing. They do charge a lot of money. Cheers from Washington State, United Forever, says Chad. Jamie, thank you very much for joining the members club. Thank you very much for that. Get your badge in. Rehiring. Miguel says, rehiring the perfect guy. His record as a manager is win all the time, including with Braga. He is the new Mourinho. That's how highly he is regarded in Portugal, says McGill. Mate, some of you might not know about Amorim. I'm not going to profess to know everything. But Man City want him. Liverpool looked at him. So his pedigree is not a bad pedigree. Can't wait till Ten Hag's NDA ends. He will have some juicy stories, says FIFA Crazy. I think you might have to wait 18 months, but yeah. Doesn't matter if Agate played under him previously. A lot of his current crop played under Ten Hag as well, says Dewan. Miguel's gifted a membership. Should we not be looking for a manager with the... I've done that one as well. City took Sporting's... look, if Amorim turns us down, I think he's ending up at City. So... that's a very, very important consideration. Matt Edwards says, I'm gutted for Ten Hag, but this is nowhere to make it or break for Ineos. They're bored and now their manager. Proof is in the pudding. Zaki says, patience is key at the moment and for the next couple of years. New manager needs to be fully involved in transfers and in picking players. They need to sell Rashford and Casemiro and get a proven striker. The lack of goals is appalling, says United AV. Disappointed in Sancho, De Gea and Phelan, says Robert McCormack. Look, the thing is, actually, I want to talk about the players that are at risk under Amorim. But Robert makes a great point. David De Gea today put out some sort of weird subliminal emoji about Ten Hag. And I don't know what it means, if I'm being completely honest. But what I will say is it's very, very clear that he wasn't happy with leaving Man United, and he obviously holds Ten Hag responsible. Again, my conscience is clear on that because I was disgusted with how David De Gea was treated, and Ten Hag was part of that. But I don't have mixed loyalties. I don't think the way De Gea was treated was fair, and I understand why De Gea may have issues with Ten Hag. I love Ronaldo, and he has issues with Ten Hag, but I back Ten Hag because he's Man United manager, and I think you've got to do that. So those things are all very separate, and he's gone now anyway, so we don't really need to dwell on it too much. But to answer your point in a fair way, there has been big mistakes, Robert. Of course there has. Jadon Sancho's not playing for Chelsea, so I'm not really fussed about that. Please don't mention Portuguese connection. That means more Hollywood passes and shots. You know who I'm talking about, says Red Devil. Broggy, thanks very much for your super chat. A fantastic channel of reason. Sorry, what was that? Let's have a look at that. A fantastic channel of reason over emotion, says Barman. Mate, this channel struggled last week. I wouldn't say I was close to giving up, but last week it was in a bad place. It was, and that's why change needed to happen. Not in the channel, but in the fan base, it was just getting ridiculous. And that I said this last night. Enough is enough. We can't keep going through these emotions. I think Man United have made the right decision. City took Sporting's director of football and were planning for Amorim to take over from Pep. So this is more than satisfying, says Imrano. Yeah, if you don't know the history of City, it started in 2008. But no, if you don't know the history of Manchester City, basically they bought Bergerstein in, who was the director of football. And a close ally of Pep. And he came in a few months before Pep. And then Pep came in. So Man City have got form for bringing the director of football in for the manager that they want to work with. So as I understand it, they've already brought in Hugo Viana of Sporting as their director of football. So the logical thing is that Amorim comes in next. So if Man United get Amorim, they've absolutely, definitely taken the manager that Man City were looking at to take over from Pep. That's assuming Pep goes. Gutted we wasted so much time with Baldy, says Chris. Well, there's no need to be offensive, mate. I mean, hopefully that's just banter, but there's no need for any of that. I still do not agree with the abuse and name calling. I just don't. I don't mind if it's a bit of banter, but it was never banter with some people. It was actually just abuse, and I think we're better than that. But Z3 Music Official says, what's the likelihood Ten Hag did this on purpose, intending to get sacked as a middle figure to Ineos for speaking with other managers over the summer? Look, I don't think any manager wants to get sacked, but Jose Mourinho has been sacked a lot and has earned tens of millions of pounds by being sacked. Ten Hag has been sacked by Man United. He won't have a problem getting another job, and he's got £15 million in his pocket. So it's not nice to get sacked, and I'm sure Ten Hag professionally will be very hurt, but what's in his bank account and where he can go next, it's just part of football, which is why I'm moving on. Like, it's just part of football. I wish we got a perfect manager like Slot at Poole, says Avinash. Sorry, but do you... Andrew says, sorry, but do you admit Ten Hag out as we're right? Mate, grow up. Go and play with the people who've got to eat. I'm not interested. I don't even see the point in talking about it. That toxicity, I'm glad it's over, and I'm relieved it's over. But it doesn't matter if you said Ten Hag out in May or last night. The fact is he's gone, and he went today. There is no prize. There is no win, and I'm Amorim in now. So it's just a transition. I don't acknowledge saying anybody else was right. So I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. I'm interested in what Man United are doing, and I'm interested in what Ineos are doing, and I'm interested in Manchester United trying to win. I agree with everything Ineos did. I back Ineos on what they did. I think they were right not to sack him in May. I think they were right not to sack him in the international break, and I think they were right to sack him today. So I'm completely and utterly comfortable with what we've done. My biggest fear was that they would sack Ten Hag and go with Ruud van Nistelrooy for months. Now, the fact that we're not going to do that is a very pleasant surprise to me, because I didn't expect that. And as I said a few minutes ago, nobody was talking about Amorim being our next manager. So that is another nice surprise. And I hinted at that this morning when I said, when you look at what Ineos have done with Barada, nobody saw it coming. When you look at what we did with Ashworth, nobody saw it coming. When you look at what we did with most of our summer transfers, Yoro, Agate, De Ligt, nobody saw it coming. And I suspected that the manager we would go for, nobody would see it coming. And whilst we'd been linked to Amorim, no one saw it coming now. In fact, I remember talking about Amorim a few weeks ago and saying that would be the summer. You won't get him out of Sporting in October. And we appear to have done that. So, yeah, I'm not dishappy with what we've done. And I tell you what, if you want to play the game of who's right and who's wrong, I told you that would happen. I told you we've got people in our fan base that want to just be right. They're Player FC as well. And they're not necessarily good for this fan base, but all is welcome. But if they'd got their way, we'd have Thomas Tuchel in charge. If Ten Hag had been sacked in May, we'd have Thomas Tuchel in charge. If Ten Hag had been sacked in the international break, Thomas Tuchel would be in charge. By sacking him today, we're getting Amorim. I think that's better. So it's all horses for courses. It's about what you want. And I would take Amorim over Tuchel. I would take Nagelsmann over Tuchel because I think we need a project manager. Mark, I think if Amorim or the manager we sign can at least get 5 of our players to play at their best. I need to answer this Glazers out, actually. Basically talking about what we need and whether we need to spend under $500 million. Actually excited to watch again, says Smoke. Sean Turner, very much Ten Hag out, Sean, but a long-term contributor and commenter on this channel. Let's hear what Sean's got to say. And he's delivered a super chat as well. You're a legend, Sean. He says, the Sporting manager just reminds me of Ten Hag. Young manager, has the best team in not a very good league. What's going to be different? So, fair play, Sean. I think the only thing I would like you to add to that is where would you have gone? Because, as I say, I don't think everybody's going to be happy with this. And a great point as well is that the club has fallen so far and there is so much strong opinion around it. No one's going to agree. And the challenge that any manager's got is that from day one, whether it's ex-players, media or fans, you're going to have people who don't support you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of I told you so people out there who will not give it any time. They will be out from... I mean, look, we've seen it with Agate. We've got Man United fans slagging off Agate. He's barely played. We've got Man United fans slagging off Xerxes. He's barely played. So this manager appointment, whoever it's going to be, and it looks like it's going to be Amorim, is not going to get instant support. And if he's here for 3 months and we've lost 4 games... he has to have patience, but will he get that patience? I don't think that's his fault. I don't think it's necessarily Ineos' fault, but I don't believe patience exists in this football club anymore. Breaking, Ben Jacobs has reported that Amorim has been verbally agreed to become Manchester United manager. Thank you very much for that. We could get a confirmation coming in tonight by the sounds of it. Things move fast. I mean, look, should they appoint him tonight, would be very interesting. But it looks like he's agreed in principle to take over. It's down to United and Sporting to agree compensation and package. So it's looking like it's very, very close, as we have discussed for the last hour or so. Look at Sporting in the league. They're top, says Sihan. Thank you very much. And new page, new era, new guy in charge, says Andre. If the fans start saying sack this guy on the first few games, I'm never chatting about football with anyone again. We should back the manager and trust this now, says Andre. Well, look, I hope I'm wrong on what I'm about to say, but I hope that you're right, Andre. But we've all been doing this for a long time. I think we know there's certain people, outlets, and agendas that will not ever be happy with Manchester United and will look to bring us down. Like, it's very easy when Ten Hag's not doing well to say that the media just want to break our legs because people agreed with it. they didn't like Ten Hag. But I'll tell you now, it won't be long before they start on Amorim. They started on Jose about a month in. There was an article by a guy who used to work for The Sun, Neil Ashton. About a month into Mourinho's reign, he was talking about dressing room turning against him. So, you know, sometimes you just need the experience and knowledge and memory. Like, they will go for him very, very quickly. They will. I don't know how I feel. I really wanted Ten Hag to work, but needed change, says Oliver. Unrelated, but Tyler Dibbling needs to come to United, says The More You Know. And thank you very much for that. I haven't spoken to you about this. Please do subscribe to the channel, by the way. We're very close to 958,000. Make sure you subscribe. Lots going to be discussed at Manchester United, obviously, for the next few days and for the next few weeks as we start a new era. We're only 7 subscribers away from 958,000, so please click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Right, what players do I think, now that we know pretty much who the next manager is going to be, what players do you think would be under scrutiny? Well, I think the honest answer is, and there's a lot of people asking this, the honest answer is that if you're going to sack a manager and bring a new manager in, we shouldn't be sat here going, oh, I wonder what's going to happen with Onana. I wonder what's going to happen with Mount. I wonder what's going to happen with Lindelof. Realistically, if we want to be successful as a football club, nobody's safe. Even the players that were bought in the summer. If you're bringing a new manager in, you can't say, all those lot you can't sell, but this lot you can. Like, he's literally got to come in, look at the players and go, I know you've just given this guy a brand new contract, but he ain't never going to play the way I want. And the club have to go, that's fine, because the contract was given by us and the previous manager, not by you. We're not forcing on you past mistakes. This is a reset button. And if you tell us that Yoro is not good enough, even though he's not played a game, I'm just using it as an example, then the club have to do that. You can't inflict on him Ruud van Nistelrooy and Rennie Heck. He's got to bring his own coaches in. You can't inflict on him the fitness team at Man United if he doesn't want it. You can't inflict on him the nutritionist if he doesn't want it. And you certainly can't inflict on him Ten Hag signings or Ollie signings if he doesn't want them. He has to come in and be allowed to do what he wants to do. And look, I'm pretty sure he will want to use Bruno Fernandes, as his sporting and Portuguese links would suggest. But if he doesn't want to use him, just because you've given him a new contract doesn't mean he has to use him. One of the most obvious reasons we've failed over the last 10 years is because we don't let managers remove players. And that has to change. Looking at the squad we have at the moment and players I think would have to really change, well, obviously, I think Casemiro is an obvious one. He's very expensive, and I don't think he's going to have the legs for the way that a high-intensity team plays. That's not a shock. We tried to sell him in the summer. I would similarly say that we wouldn't be giving Eriksen a new deal, even though he's done quite well this year. I would say the same about Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof and Johnny Evans, because again, I don't think they're going to have the fitness record or mobility. You could argue that Luke Shaw is going to not ever be fit enough, so he's going to have to go. I think that looking at the wingers, obviously Anthony would probably not work because he can't adapt to the Premier League. I would say somebody like, a big hitter, I would say somebody like, Xerxes is going to be very interesting because he's not an out-and-out number 9. And if Amorim played a 3-4-3, where does Xerxes fit into that? But he'll be given an opportunity. Will Rasmus be prolific enough to play that role, or would he look to be bringing another striker in? How does Ahmad fit into that? Marcus Rashford, as a superstar player of the team, is he going to fit into the way that Amorim wants his wingers to work and press and be possession-based? Is Onana going to be the right sort of goalkeeper for him? I think there's so many things, and it has to be a proper reset. It's got to be a proper reset. There's no point playing at it. It's got to be a proper reset. And if you're doing a proper reset, then everybody's up for grabs, aren't they? Jackie Boy says, do you think we will go for Gio Queiroz next summer, or he likely go to Chelsea, Arsenal or Liverpool? I go back to the poll. How much money do you think it will need to compete with Manchester City from this point? 66% of you are saying over £500 million. I agree. I think that we would have to be giving a new manager at least £500 million from here. Where's that going to come from? Where is that money going to come from? That's the only thing I would say. I think the new manager does need money because he cannot be expected. You can't say, nobody can say it. I'm sure rivals will say it. I'm sure the media will say it. But if this new manager comes in, nobody can say United spent £200 million in the summer. That is completely and utterly irrelevant. That's like me moving into a new house and finding out that the previous owner spent loads of money on the kitchen and I don't like it. I don't expect my mother-in-law to come round and say, you can't get a new kitchen, they've just done one. I didn't fucking pay for it, and I didn't want that. I want this. So the Man United may have spent £600 million for Ten Hag, but they spent Ten Hag, Amorim's had nothing. So he can't be told or expected to work with what he didn't buy. I'm sure he'll work with some of them, but he must be given a fair crack of the whip, like any manager must. Rex says, I've been meaning to ask this for a while. How much of Ten Hag's first season was on the back of De Gea's shot-stopping ability, says Rex. I don't think you can analyse. I don't think there's much point in it because he's gone anyway. But a lot of that season was based on defence. We only conceded 9 goals at Old Trafford in the whole season in the league. And David De Gea won the Golden Glove. Casemiro was my my player of the season. Defensively, we were very, very, very good that season. Yeah. But there's not really that much point in analysing a manager that's been sacked. He will obviously, where Ten Hag fits into Man United's managers since Sir Alex Ferguson will probably need a bit of reflection, and I don't think we can do that today. As I said this morning, dependent on how things go from here, the day we sacked Mourinho, I never expected to be in a position in a year or two where I would regret it and, appreciate what he did. At the time they sacked him, everyone was very happy. And we went through that Ollie's at the wheel, and nobody was talking about Mourinho when they were singing Ollie's at the wheel. And yet, within 2 years, everyone was saying we shouldn't have got rid of Mourinho. So I think it's too new to know what Ten Hag's legacy at Man United will be. Amorim only won with one team in Portugal. It's risky, says Malchet. I'm afraid it will mean to cashing in on either Garnacho or Mainu to raise a lot of the money, says KFJ. Are we going to talk these new... Mark, are we going to talk these in 2-3 year new coach, says John? I think what you're saying is, will the cycle continue in 2 or 3 years? And that will always be the fear, isn't it? Glad to see the glow black in your eyes, boss, says Parker. I just think you've got to move on, haven't you? I mean, it does remind me a lot of Christmas Eve when we actually had it confirmed that Ineos had won the race. It wasn't what I wanted, but at the end of the day, it was a relief to know and then adapt. And I feel that that's where I was last night. I was like, something's got to happen. And then when it happened this morning, it was relief. And then this evening, it's like... surprise and praise that we've actually not going to do the whole interim thing, which was my big fear. I was even saying it in the international break, like we won't get a new manager, we'll get an interim in. And I'll back Ruud van Nistelrooy, of course I will, but I don't want an interim. I want a new manager. And if they're moving that quick, good. Super Nostalgia says, ignore my Southgate comments. I haven't ignored them, mate. I just think the Southgate stuff is much the same as Will on the podcast. There was talk of Southgate in March. It was genuine. It didn't start from this channel. It was Fabrizio mentioned it. Mark Ogden mentioned it. Southgate was genuinely being spoken about in March. To what extent, who knows? But he was being spoken about. But ever since the summer, Ineos have dropped that. So anybody mentioning Southgate over the last few weeks, it's just not realistic. That they've never been looking at it. So I'm just, it's a waste of time and it's a waste of air. And I mean, it would be footballing suicide to bring Gareth Southgate in. Dre says apparently he's agreed it's down to Man United and Sporting for compensation. Yeah. Well, look, other journalists can swoop in and try and claim credit. This is Ornstein, followed by Romano a little bit later. This story broke at about 6 o'clock that Man United were going to get Amorim. And anyone else can now jump in on it and say, oh, it's nearly done, I'm hearing. It's bullshit. You didn't have the story. David Ornstein had the story. And as soon as that dropped, I knew it was going to happen. So people can start pretending that, you know, he's agreed and it's going to happen here, there and everywhere. But I'll go back to what I said to you this afternoon and throughout this show. I was told at lunchtime from very good source that Manchester United already had the next manager lined up. Had no fucking idea who it was going to be. And the tweet's there at about 3 o'clock today. They've clearly had something lined up before they've sacked Ten Hag. And it's ruthless, but it's absolutely the right thing to do. Whether it's Manchester United, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, if you're sacking a manager, to have the next one lined up is absolutely the right thing to do for the benefit of the football club. Of course it's not nice for Ten Hag. But the worst thing you can do is sack the manager and then start looking about what to do. The right thing to do for the football club is to be having somebody lined up, ready to go as soon as you sack him, because this season is salvageable. And why risk an interim coach who's never managed at the highest level at all when you could go and get the guy that you want? And maybe Van Nistelrooy would do a better job than Amorim, but the point is, Amorim is the guy they want, and Ruud van Nistelrooy is an interim. And I applaud them for going out there and working quick. And look, I'm absolutely not sitting here or standing here and saying Amorim's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. I don't know whether he's going to be, but the most important thing is, we're not the CEO, we're not Sir Jim Radcliffe, and if they've decided with their footballing committee that this is the guy they want, and they've paid to get him, then they've picked the guy they want. That's the most important thing, is that they pick the guy they want. And we follow. We can have our reservations, but they are in charge of Manchester United, and they need to show leadership. If Amorim comes in, does he keep Onana? And do you think Ineos Glazers allow him to bench Rashford, Bruno, considering how much they paid? Well, Tim, how has it worked for Man United since Jose Mourinho being told who he can sell and who he can't? Jose couldn't sell certain players, which means he's got to keep them and play them. How has that worked? How has it worked telling managers they can't sell players and they've got to play them? It doesn't work. So if they think they're going to tell Amorim he can't sell certain players and he's got to use them, then that's on the club. But also another warning, Erik Ten Hag told Man United, and one of the big reasons they gave him the job, Erik Ten Hag told Man United, I will get the best out of Marcus Rashford. And he did for a year. But then he had to pretty much keep doing it. If Amorim is stupid enough to come into this football club and say, I'll get the best out of Bruno, Rashford and Anthony or whoever else, then that's on him, isn't it? I think with Xerxes, he works best in a partnership with a proper striker in a front two or a front four. He's a false nine and he can't be on his own, says Jackie Boy. Do you think Amorim will bring over players from Sporting if he gets the job? Usmani, Højlund, Gio Queiroz perhaps? They've got a few centre-backs, and if he's going to play 3 centre-backs, he might want to bring one of them over. As you said, they've is it Diamonde? Inacho, isn't it? Trying to think who else they've got there. Højlund we've mentioned, the striker we've mentioned. So he might do. If he does, he will be ridiculed again by the media who say, oh, bringing players out from the Superliga again. Alvaro Carreras would be amazing for Amorim, says Levi. I think there's a big chance we'll bring Alvaro Fernandez back from Benfica, which is who you're talking about, Levi. I've just realised because some people use that name. Look, he's doing a very good job at Benfica. We probably shouldn't have let him go. And he is also going to be very well known to Amorim at Sporting. So I wouldn't be surprised if we bring him back because it's cheap and big clubs are already looking at him. Whoever the next manager is, I hope they're not naive enough to think these players won't down tools again in 2 years, says Josh. What do you think about Onana, says Tim? I think with Onana, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting with Onana because I've always had my reservations about him as a shot stopper. I don't think we've ever used him properly as a ball-playing goalkeeper. I think he was very, very much controversial because we had an amazing shot stopper in David De Gea. And Ten Hag threw De Gea into the rubbish to spend £50 million on Onana. I don't think Ineos would have allowed that, by the way. But Murta and the Glazers did. That's got nothing to do with now. I honestly don't know what Amorim will do. He might not have a problem with Onana. He might actually be quite happy with it. So yeah, I don't know, but like there could be multiple positions that are problematic for the new manager. I don't know. I think it's one of those where we'll just have to wait and see. I can't believe Anthony didn't win the Ballon d'Or, says Jackie Boy, and hopefully the new boss will allow the new players to establish themselves. Clearly Agate and Xerxes are Ineos signings and not Ten Hag. Keep up the good work, Mark, says Topper. Opinions on sacking a manager each year so the players are always playing on the new manager bounce energy, says Hobnob. And Anan says, I just want this cycle of managers being sacked by the players to stop. It has to stop at some point, right, says Anand. The only way it will stop, and the only thing that I think we would all agree on that has never happened, because there's that saying, and I haven't used it today, and I purposely haven't used it, but I'll use it now. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And I think when you look at the cycle of Manchester United, we are sacking managers around the same time every 2 to 3 years. And the new manager comes in and has to work with the same shit with a bit of money that their own. But we never remove the deadwood and we never give him a clear run at the job. So I think that if there is hope with the new manager, the hope would be that he doesn't have to be hindered by utilising players that he didn't bring into the football club. They must be given that, mythical reset. They must be given the power to say, this player's never going to work, so why am I paying this money and why am I having to use him? I don't know whether Ineos can do that, but surely they can. Surely they can. Is it true about Amorim? Mate, I think it's very true about Amorim. I think as early as tomorrow, he might be Man United's new manager. And if he's Man United's new manager tomorrow, would he be involved for the Chelsea game? Obviously, he wouldn't be involved for the Leicester game because that's on Wednesday. Apparently Sporting, according to Sam C, Sporting have got 9 wins from 9 in the league and have currently scored 30 goals. Yeah, well, Mark Ogden is reporting that Ruben Amorim was high on the list of Liverpool and Barcelona last season, but stayed at Sporting. If he moves to Man United, it would be a coup that the club in their current situation would do very well to pull off. Interesting. Lots of people writing about him at the moment, and I'm sure we'll have more on that. I tell you what, he's well built, isn't he? I'm just looking at a picture of him on the United stand from 44 minutes ago, and he definitely goes down the gym. Not that that's going to make him a good manager. I think what's going on with Amorim, from just reading a few things, and I would repeat what I said a few minutes ago, is why didn't we go for him in the summer? I think we need to move on from that, don't we? I actually agree with keeping Ten Hag up until the point we did, and I agree with what they're doing at the moment. But the big thing with Amorim is I think a lot of people felt that the release clause was a problem and that's why nobody went for him. And I think a lot of people thought that we would go to the summer for Amorim if we were going to go for him. So it looks to me now like he has said yes, and it's about paying the release clause and negotiating with Sporting. And if we're negotiating with Sporting, are we trying to bring the release clause down? Maybe it won't. Actually, that's a good point, isn't it? I wonder how quick it will happen, because if you think about Dan Ashworth, and you think about Omar Barada, and you think about the Agate transfer, and you talk about the De Ligt transfer, they weren't quick once we know we wanted them. There was a long negotiation period. So one thing I would say is maybe we don't announce Amorim that quick. Maybe there might be a period of a couple of weeks of negotiation. I don't know. But I don't think that can work, can it? Because if you're a Sporting Lisbon fan, when's Sporting's next game? Sporting next game, I mean, he did a press conference today. So their next game is tomorrow in the quarterfinal. So the fans, what I'm trying to say is the fans of Sporting Lisbon are probably not going to put up with negotiations, are they? Lee Berman says Ineos had to get a permanent replacement quickly, in my opinion. They already looked weak from not sacking Ten Hag after the cup final like they wanted to. They've got to be, as well, Lee, they've got to offer something different, haven't they? When you look at what happened with Mourinho to Ollie and the interim, and Ollie to Ranić with the interim, that's sort of the Ten Hag way, isn't it? So I think that... No, sorry, that's the Man United way. So I think Ineos are obviously very motivated on doing things differently. And therefore, if they're going to do things differently, I think they've got to approach things in a different way. And therefore, sacking a manager and having the next one lined up in October isn't something we normally do. I mean, I remember when Solskjaer... Remember when we lost at Anfield with Solskjaer? And it was almost like the football club. We just weren't prepared. That's what I'm trying to say. When Solskjaer lost to Liverpool and probably should have got sacked, and the international break came, they all went and hid in a cave. And it was like, they've got no contingency plan, have they? They had nothing led. They'd gone all in with Ollie, and they had nothing. They had no response. And then we came back from the international break, and they clearly wanted it to work. And before you know it, you're playing Watford, and they're like, shit, we've got to sack him. And they weren't ready. They had nothing lined up and went from Ollie to Ranić. Whereas this time, obviously, all this demand to sack Ten Hag in the international break, talks were clearly taking place in case they needed to do it. And now, when they have done it, they're ready to go with the next one. And that's the big difference. They're acting differently. Adrian C says, back in 2018, Ruben Amorim completed a performance internship under Jose Mourinho at Manchester United. Owen Hopkins says that Five Live said that Amorim boxed himself in and commuted to Sporting when he went to speak to West Ham in London. Hope he comes in and solidifies the club. What? He boxed himself in and commuted to Sporting when he went to speak to West Ham. What does that even mean? Five Live said that Amorim commuted to Sporting when he went to speak to West. I don't know what that means. It's obvious we need De Jong, a left back, and a centre forward to play alongside Højlund and a clear out of Deadwood. But the inconsistent bunch in the side chose to switch off, and now the cycle will keep going. Oh, you're talking about Ten Hag, Sahaj. Ineos had to get a permanent replacement quickly, says Lee. Ten Hag was also an amazing manager in the Eredivisie. I'm not so optimistic with Amorim. He's Portugal's Ten Hag, says Los Blancos. And I wonder how other clubs are feeling about the potential move, says Simon. You know what? I'd love to test the water on that. I'd love to know what rival fans think, because I genuinely do think that he is a manager with a good reputation. I genuinely do think that if Pep left in the summer, he would be the next Man City manager if we weren't doing this. I genuinely think that Liverpool were looking at him. So I think he's got good pedigree, but Man United's a very different... Man United's a harder job than Man City, Liverpool. They're better teams and they're going to win more trophies. And that's why our job's harder. We've said in the past the next manager to succeed Ten Hag will be a yes man. Do you think it is still the case, or have Ineos had a change of mind? No, Fairway 5. I think the next manager of Manchester United will have nowhere near the vetoes that Ten Hag had. I think he will be a coach and not a manager. And I hope that is how it works out. No, sorry, I hope that works out. It's not how I would do it, but my worry about having a coach and not a manager is what say does he have on signings and transfers? There's no point giving any manager a job and then not giving him the ability to sell players. Can these players play Amorim's style, or will he show tactical flexibility? We still have a slow midfield and a left-back problem. We need top 4 for PSR. I don't think we can spend more without selling. Faisal. Or we win the Europa League. Would you like Xavi, says Antonio? No point talking about it now because it's going to be Amorim, isn't it? Mr. Glenn Johnson says Ten Hag lost 7-0 to Liverpool and kept his job. For me, that was the moment Ten Hag was gone. That was 10 months ago. Kyle says he verbally agreed to join Liverpool in April. I will never like him, says Kyle. And it's sad, but got to take the Eric Ten Hag book down, says Dean. I will do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Not like before, the players did not give Ten Hag under the bus. Unfortunately, it was tactics, says Alan Lunan. Yeah, good point, Alan. They did show fight. I don't think they showed ability. Malp says, time to remove that Ten Hag book behind you, Mark. Thank you very much for that. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, bottom right-hand corner. It's been a very eventful day. Do you think we will get an official announcement tonight? No. No. I don't think Ineos move that fast. I don't think they move that fast. And I think that they will take their time on negotiations with Sporting. I mean, as I say, if I go back to what I said this afternoon, I was told at lunchtime that Man United had the next manager lined up. That was all I was told. I don't know whether that meant that they had the deal pretty much done. They knew the guy they wanted and they were going to go for him. And I didn't know who it was going to be. But that has come to pass. I don't think Man United miss when they go for somebody. Whether it's Lenny Yoro, Dan Ashworth, they don't miss under Ineos. I don't expect them to miss on this. When it will get done, I don't know. Ideally, I would like him doing a Man United press conference on Thursday, the day after Leicester. I would like him on the training ground on Friday and Saturday, ready for the game on Sunday. Because that's when the new manager bounce will happen, because they will want to impress him. I don't know whether that's achievable. He's not going to be in for Leicester, and that's absolutely fine. And to be honest, I don't want his first game to be fucking Leicester in the Carabao Cup. I want it to be Chelsea at Old Trafford in the Premier League. So my ideal timeline would be official announcement tomorrow or Wednesday, press conference Thursday, he's picking the team for Sunday. I don't know whether that's achievable. But to be honest with you, why wouldn't it be achievable? I can't see a situation where it benefits us or Sporting for him to be staying in charge of Sporting whilst we negotiate with Sporting. So I think hopefully it's going to move quickly. And then you get the new manager bounce with the new manager for the first time ever, which would be great. How is Amorim different at Sporting to Eric Ten Hag at Ajax, as Mr. Darkside? And this is my concern. I don't think this is going to please everybody. I really don't. But it's Ineos' choice. I back it. They said that Ten Hag was the best candidate after thorough review. What's changed from then to now, says Connor. And this is what happens. When the shine disappears, the questions start to ask. How did Vinny not win the Ballon d'Or? I can hear your live thoughts on it as it's a disgrace, says Bob. Disgrace, yes. I don't get it. Vinicius Jr. should have won the Ballon d'Or. Rodri's a very good player, but I just don't get that, really. But I don't get VAR. I don't get why we play so much football. I don't get the Nations League. I don't understand it. The big thing I would always say to you, and the great thing about this community, is that your opinion is as valid as anybody else's. Knobheads rule the roost and dictate bad decisions to us. And we saw that yesterday with VAR. We've seen it time and time again with the footballing authorities. We see it with pundits. We see it with ex-players. They're just as vulnerable as anybody else. In fact, I think they make more bad decisions, which is why I love doing this. And I want to say thank you to everybody today. It's weird. When Mourinho got sacked, I would never normally have done this, but I was in Manchester in a coffee shop at 10 o'clock and Simon Stone said Mourinho's been sacked. Today, I wasn't even here. I was at the podcast studio. I never seem to be in my normal place when it happens. And today, it's been a very big day, and it's probably going to be a day that we don't forget, because I never forget when Mourinho gets sacked. I never forgot when Ollie got sacked. So it's another day where it's a big day for Manchester United. Hopefully, it's going to be the right decision, and hopefully it's going to take us to the right place. But what I want to say is thanks everybody for all it's been tough. It's been tough for a long time in this fan base, and it's been toxic for a long time. And, I've contributed to that as much as anybody else. I just hope that there is a shared sense of relief, and I just hope that that reset happens and we can get behind this manager and be successful. And focus on the real problems, because I still believe not actually the solution. I'm not saying that needed to happen today, but that needed to happen for multiple reasons. That he wasn't really Ineos's guy, was he? This is Ineos's guy. I would be disgusted if in 2 years' time they were sacking their own guy again, because it's so obvious to me that the manager isn't really the problem at Man United. They are a symptom, but they are not the problem. Mourinho wasn't really the problem, although he needed to go. Ten Hag wasn't really the problem, although he needed to go. Same with Ollie. They end up having to go, but why they've got to go, I think, is symptomatic to a lot of other things as well. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I think we might be losing the stream anyway. Don't know why that's happening. Am I still here? Let me know if I am. If not, I'm about to stop the stream anyway. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Obviously, if there's anything to break to later, we will be back live. But you know what? I feel like we've got the community back. I really do. I know that's quite corny, but I feel like we've got the community back today. We might not have all agreed on it, but I do sense that we have got the community back, and we're not going to all agree. We never meant to agree. But I do feel like this could be the start of something. It might not be, but I do feel like today has been a better day than the day. I would never call it a good day to sack a manager, but it feels like it's a better day to what we've had for a long time. And this season is salvageable. I felt it was salvageable under Ten Hag up until yesterday. So one loss, I thought if we beat West Ham yesterday, we could still do something. So one loss to West Ham doesn't mean it's season over for the new manager. I still think that something is salvageable, especially if we can get that new manager bounce. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great one. Make sure you subscribe on your way out. We will be back, of course, tomorrow at 10 a.m. But if something happens before then, of course, we will be live. That's what we do. Lots to talk about. I'm going to do a lot more research and stuff on Amorim, so we can bring all that in as well. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. The best football community in the world. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.